Alright, hello guys and welcome to another video. This is going to be a video all about making maps for a GeoGuessr. If you've played GeoGuessr in the past, then you've probably seen that there are a bunch of user-made maps. Like a lot of a diverse world, for example, made by the user mapper. You just have a bunch of them. Dumb test made by Aidan Flanagan. If you want, you can make your own map. And that's what we're going to talk about today. There are three different ways to go about map making, and I'll talk about that more in depth. But to start off, you first need to decide what kind of map you want. So, um, first decision you have to make, in my opinion, is whether you want it to be a map with unofficial coverage or do you want it to be a map with only official coverage. So, as you can see, for example, a community world here is a map that only contains official Google Street View locations. Now, there are a few reasons for that. A lot of well-established maps use only Google Street View. And then the reason for that, as you can see here, is an example of a location with Google Street View. Um, as you can see, the quality is very nice. You can zoom in and you can still see high definition pictures. That's one aspect of it. Then if you're moving, then the movement is usually connected. Well, most of the times it's going to be not have any gaps, and the compass is usually going to be correct. So as you can see, this is the road angle. It matches with the map. So that's another advantage of official coverage, is that you have good quality coverage, you have good movement, decent movement, you have an accurate compass, and then you also usually don't have to worry about official coverage being overwritten by unofficial coverage when new coverage is uploaded. So what I mean by that is, like, right now we are on this road right here. But who knows, tomorrow maybe some person named Bob wants to put a camera on top of their car and drive along this road and upload it to Google. And then there'll be some unofficial coverage on this road. Uh, but the thing is, when with Google Street View, usually unofficial coverage doesn't overwrite official coverage. It does happen sometimes, but I'll talk about that later. But most of the times, it's fine. So you usually have the guarantee of having good quality coverage when you use official coverage, you know. But then sometimes unofficial coverage can be nice. You can get some really cool views that you usually won't get in Google Street View. So for example, not to self-promote, but this is a photosphere I took less than a month ago when I was on my trip, and in my opinion, I'm really proud of this one because it looks fantastic. So let's say you like this photosphere and you want to add it to a map, then that makes a lot of sense because there's no way a Google Street View car is going to drive here, you know. There are trackers, of course, and you do get a Google tracker here, but sometimes you just want a photosphere. So that is uh, that is also possible. So the first choice you need to make is whether you want an official map or a map with unofficial coverage and photospheres. Um, and the reason you need to make that decision first is because that decides how you go about map making. So let's get into the map making itself. There are three prominent ways in which you can make a map. First one is the polygonal maps that you can make in GeoGuessr. Then you can handpick all the locations in your map. That is the second option. And then the third option is computer generated maps. So the computer generates a bunch of coordinates of the locations, and that's how your map is formed. So the easiest map you could make is a polygonal map. It's very simple. It takes less than a minute. Or a few minutes maybe, but it takes little to no work, and it's very simple. But the problem is that you can only make maps with official coverage using it. You cannot add unofficial coverage to those maps. So if you want unofficial coverage, then already polygonal maps are not for you. Also, I would suggest computer-generated maps should also not be unofficial. I think there's some way to get unofficial coverage using computer-generated maps, but um, yeah, I haven't really tried it. And personally, I think it's better to handpick unofficial coverage, because a lot of the time unofficial coverage is just horrible quality. So if you do want to make a map with unofficial coverage, I highly recommend you to stick to just handpicking every location. So um, yeah, getting back to official coverage, first way to do it is polygonal maps. So these maps can only happen in the GeoGuessr map maker. Now, note that the GeoGuessr map maker is, as of now, not the most preferred map maker. There is this Street View map maker, you see mapmaking.app, which is the alternative, and I'll talk about that later. It's made by Rihanna. It has revolutionized map making, and it's fantastic. But we'll get to that when we go to Handpicked Max. So for now, polygonal maps can only happen in the GeoGuessr map maker. So you select polygonal maps, you give it a name, and I've noticed that you need at least 3 letters for your map name. So make sure you have at least 3 letters, or else you might have issues publishing the map. But you can create the map. You can also add a description. Um, you can save that. If you want, you can highlight it on your profile, so when people go to your profile, they can see that you created that map. And then you can also change the avatar of the map. So maybe you want some water down there. Maybe you want these snow-capped mountains. Maybe you want these Japanese decorations, you know? And there you go. There's your map avatar. You save that. And, that's one thing that you can do here. Now, with polygonal maps, you can see you have a option on the bottom left to draw a polygon. So it's right there. And then what have I just done? Okay, I accidentally created a polygon. But yeah, basically you have options at the bottom left to, draw a polygon or just select something. So that's how you go about polygonal maps. The way polygonal maps work basically is that you can draw a polygon around a region. So let's say you want to make a map of Japan. Then you can draw a polygon. You can be very specific with what all it covers, which islands, which not. Um, and there you go. There is your Japan map polygon. It has 789,000 locations. Um, but the way these work, basically, as far as I understand, is that the GeoGuessr developers have created like a database with a bunch of locations. And whenever you draw a polygon, it basically selects locations from their database in that region. So as you can see, for Japan, there are 790k locations possibly. And yeah, when you draw a polygon around it, then these all automatically get selected from their database and get added to this map. So it's very easy for you. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is draw the polygon. Maybe you're not happy with it, then you can delete it. Or maybe you want to draw a polygon only for Hokkaido. Maybe you don't want to map off the entirety of Japan. So then you can also do that. You can be very precise with your polygon as you like. And there you go. That's your polygonal map done. So you can save map and publish. You might not see these 4 buttons at the bottom, by the way. It's because I have a additional script, but I'll talk about that in a bit. I'll disable it for now because it might get confusing for you. But yeah, there you go. There's your polygonal map, and you can hit publish, and your map is good to go. So you go to your maps, and you will see the map right here, and you can go ahead and play it if you want. Yeah, it's up to you. There you go. You have the Hokkaido cabbage, the infamous Hokkaido cabbage. So yeah, you can go ahead, play this map, and yeah, do whatever you want with it. So there you go with polygonal maps. Now there are a few maps that are polygonal, and those are pretty much like the popular ones are just the ones made by GeoGuessr themselves. So the world map is, as far as I know, a polygonal map. Yeah, like these United States map or just these official maps are all, from my understanding, polygonal. But there are drawbacks to polygonal maps, and if you ask me, I think out of these 3, the most preferred map making methods are handpicked and computer generated. People usually don't prefer polygonal maps because they have a bunch of flaws. Um, One of them being, for example, that where did my map go? Here. So every location you play in polygonal maps will always be pointed towards the north. And there's nothing you can do about that. It will always, always be pointed towards the north. So you can't really control the panning of the locations. And if you want to play like NMPZ, then usually that's not that preferable. Another problem with polygonal maps is that you often get like indoors trekkers in museums and, just some weird places. Maybe you like that, but for a lot of the GeoGuessr game modes, they're usually not that good. So in general, I'd say polygonal maps have a few flaws. Another problem is that you can't really control the location distribution. So like let's say you make a map of US and Canada. Um, then what happens is that yeah, I'm skipping some part of US, but whatever. So you have 6.3 million locations, but the problem is that US has a very high density of street view coverage compared to Canada, where yeah, there's only a limited amount. So this map will automatically be heavily, heavily weighted towards the US compared to Canada just because of how much coverage there is, And that's another drawback of the world map, I think, is that you can't really control the location distribution. Um, you know, you just have to accept what comes at you. So in any case, these are some things you can do with polygonal maps. But yeah, as I said, I'm not really a fan of it. A lot of people aren't. And I've made a video on the world map, which you can see linked up there somewhere. You can check that out if you want to see more reasons why I don't really like them too much. Um, but it's your choice. It's a easy way to make maps. So yeah, you can decide what kind of map you want. So there you go with polygonal maps. Now let's get into handpicked maps. So there are two ways to go about making a handpicked map. First is using the GeoGuessr map maker, clicking handpick locations, and then you can give it a name. But the other is using map making app. You need to create an account here. I think you can even create it using Discord. So you need to create an account and then you can create a map here. So let's create it here as well. And we can do a side-by-side comparison of which one is better. So let's create this, the two, and this is what you have. So you can do a bunch of things here. Let's look at it one by one. First things that you can do is you can switch between the type of map. You have this normal street map, the satellite map, the hybrid map, which is just satellite with all the labels, and then the terrain map, which is the classic map, but you can see, the mountains and stuff properly. So maybe you want to add a location on a mountain road, then, or that's a valley, I guess. Okay, maybe you want to add a location in a valley. This is a mountain road, so there you go. You can use that and you can kind of figure out what kind of elevation your locations are at or you want them to be. So that's useful. Another thing you can do is you can change the density of the street view or the opacity of the street view coverage, I guess. As you can see, all the blue lines represent the street view coverage. So if you want it to be completely gone, you can remove it. If you want to see exactly where it is, you can make it max. But then sometimes, like if you want to add a location somewhere here, and then you want to see the street name, then the blue line just hides the street name. So that's where this comes in handy, and you can kind of see the street name and then add the location. So that's another feature of this map maker. Another thing you can do is you can search for locations. So let's say you want to add a location at the Tokyo Tower, then you can just look it up, Tokyo Tower, and there you go. There's the Tokyo Tower, and you can just select the location right outside it, maybe. Oh, there it is. So yeah, you can do the search. You can use the search feature as well. Um, Another thing you can do is make unofficial maps. You can, let's say you want to make a map with photospheres, then you can see these blue dots. These are photospheres. And then yeah, you can add this. Like this is a pretty decent quality photosphere, so that's a good reason to add it. But sometimes they will not be that good quality. So anyway, this is how you can look through photospheres and make a photosphere map if you want. And then another thing you can do is, let's say you've made a map. Let me just quickly just randomly select 5 locations, because that's how many you need to create a map. So you have 5 locations, and then your map is ready, but then okay, maybe you have like 100 locations and then you need a backup for them because, what if you accidentally mess something up, delete the map, something happens, then it's good to have a backup. So you can do that. You have this option here. You can export locations and then you have a CSV file that gets downloaded, which contains all the locations. And then next time you can just import the CSV file and you have your locations again. So that's all you can do in this map maker. Which for basic maps, for simple maps, maybe you want to make a map with 20 locations, 10, 15 locations, and this is good enough. You don't really need to worry about anything else. But the problem is that it actually lacks a lot of features and it has a bunch of problems. Well, as of now, maybe over time it'll improve a lot. But I'm making this video on 17th of November, 2022. So as of today, it definitely lacks a few features, but we've talked to the devs, we've given them feedback, and they have said that they're working on it. So hopefully in the future, this is more usable. But as of now, what I prefer and what a lot of experienced members of the GeoGuessr mapmaking community prefer is the mapmaking app. So let's take a look at the mapmaking app. So these features, the street view density, you have it here. In fact, mapmaking app had it first, and it got added to the GeoGuessr mapmaker afterwards. So that's one thing that you already have. Changing between modes, you can do that here as well. You have terrain mode. You have even more, because you have satellite mode, and then you can turn it off. So yeah, this is the hybrid. This is the normal satellite. Um, and it also shows you OpenStreet map, which is usually more reliable for borders and intersections and all of that. So if you want to be very, very precise with, where you're placing your locations, OpenStreetMap can come in quite handy. Now there's also some other features which like panoramas, but I don't think I have time to get into this. Um, but maybe another time. Maybe if you get deeper into map making, we can go into some of the more specific and interesting things. Um, Emphasize subdivision borders. You have that, I guess. So you can see like the French subdivisions here. Uh, like without this, you can't really see them too well, but with this, you see them very nicely. And then if you prefer dark mode for maps, then yeah, you have that as well. So you have even more options. So yeah, you have all those options, but let's stick to the basics. What else? You have more settings here. One of these is, okay, let's go through these one by one. But the most important one here that I want to point out is to hide blue lines for unofficial coverage and trekkers. So this is something that you do not find in this map maker, and it's incredibly useful because if you want to make a map with official coverage only, um, then doing this clears out a lot of blue on the map. So look at this. And look at this, it's a lot cleaner because you don't have photospheres dotting the map everywhere, photo paths and unofficial coverage arrays. And then, yeah, everywhere you click, it will be official coverage only. So that's very, very handy. Secondly, you have increased blue line resolution, which I have here, which is why it looks a bit more clean. In the GeoGuessr map maker, you don't have this, so this is what your blue lines look like. You can see it here. Um, so yeah, and then I've also hidden this. So this is what your GeoGuessr map maker looks like. And then you can hide unofficial coverage, so it shows only the official stuff. And you can increase the blue line resolution, and yeah, it looks very clean, I think. If you look at it close, then yeah, you can see the blue line is going on both sides of the road, but here it's like a thin line. Anyway, so that's another aesthetic thing. but it does reduce performance a bit. Another thing you can do is show location previews when you're hovering over the map. So like if you do that, then you can see a preview of the location down there, which I think is pretty cool. I don't really use it too much, but I think it's nice. Prefer official coverage on RE'd roads. This is an interesting and very useful feature if you're making an official coverage map. Let's, for example, go to Bhutan and click right here. As you can see, this is one of the rare occasions where official coverage has been overwritten by unofficial coverage. Um, and reasons for that is just Google. Google does things, and this is one of the things it does. So if you're making a map with official coverage, you don't want that. So right now, if I don't select this, and if I click here, oh wait, let me also not hide these blue lines. Oh, why is that different? Okay, let's go to this road. Yeah, this is where I was. So if I click here, then as you can see, I get the same thing that I got in the GeoGuessr map maker. But now let's turn on prefer official coverage on RE roads, and you get the official coverage. It's so much better if you're making an official map, because you don't have to worry about unofficial coverage. And in the past, when we had these kind of roads where the official coverage was overwritten by unofficial coverage, you had to do a long roundabout way to get the official coverage back. Um, but here it's just click of a button and it's ready. Another thing you have here is point view along the road by default. This is something that I mentioned as a flaw or a drawback of the GeoGuessr map maker, is that you just select any spot and the location is pointed towards the road usually. So that's very useful, I think, and especially if you're playing NMPZ games, moving games, all of that, then it's nice that you don't really have to, like if you spawn like this, you don't have to pan and then move. You just automatically are panned this way. So of course that's up to you. Maybe you don't like that. But most world maps, diverse world, community world, improved world, a lot of world maps are created so that they are pointing towards the road. So that is another advantage. This is just the surface. These are just the surface level features that I've showed you. There are so many more things you can do with this. But before we get into that, maybe you have the question, okay, this sounds great, but let's say I create a map here, then how do I add it to GeoGuessr? Let's take a look at that. For that, you need this script. I'll link this in the description. And you need TamperMonkey on your browser. So it's TamperMonkey is a browser extension. Just install it, and then you need to add the script to TamperMonkey. So, for example, I have it installed already. So I turn it on, copy paste GeoGuessr map data, and then I refresh the page, and you can see these additional buttons. So let me move my cam here, and yeah, you see these additional buttons. So let's say you've finished a map. So for the sake of time, I'm going to quickly import a map that I already have. A Singapore map. Okay, so let's say you finished making this map on Map Making app. So you can just export it. You can even export the zoom levels. So let's say on this location, you choose to zoom the location all the way in at this because maybe you see a funny sign here or something. Maybe it's an inside joke. So you save it like that, save it, and then you can even export the zoom levels. So whenever you import that into the GeoGuessr map maker and you play the map in game, you will see the map or the location all the way zoomed in. So you copy this and then you import locations from your clipboard, and you can press replace locations, or if you want to add it to existing locations, then you can just add locations, and then there you go, there's your map. Now another thing to mention here is that the location that I changed, it wasn't this. Which one was it? I changed the panning on one of these, this one. So in this map maker, you will not see it zoomed in, But if you play the map in game, then you will see it zoomed in. And the reason for that is because I don't know, the GeoGuessr map maker just doesn't show you the zoomed in version, I guess. Um, but in any case, this is how it works. So you can just import, export. You can even just download the file and you save it. So as you can see here, it saves it as a JSON. It doesn't save it as a CSV, and that was one of the flaws of this map maker, was that it you can only export and import files as CSVs. But if you want to save data about the locations, you need JSON files. Because what happens is that, let's say I export these locations as a CSV, and then if you import them again into the map, then what happens is that all the locations by default get panned towards the north. As you can see, this is pointing north, this is pointing north, this is pointing north. So no matter how much time you've spent panning your locations, if you export and import using this tool, everything in your map is going to be panned towards the north. And that is possibly the most annoying thing about this map maker to me, is that you cannot pan the locations in the direction you want. And if you're playing moving or no moving games, maybe it's fine, but for NMPZ games, it's really annoying. And even for no moving and moving, I think it's preferable to have it facing the road. But in any case, that's the advantage of using JSONs. Or if you just copy paste, then um, it's also the same thing. It pretty much saves the orientation, panning, and everything else. So there you go. This time it's not pointed towards the north. And that's the advantage of using JSON files, which you can do in mapmaking app and in GeoGuessr with the help of this script. So that's how you can transfer files between the two. Um, but yeah, let's get into other features of this map maker. So as I told you, there's a lot more to it. And the first one being that you can add tags to locations. So let's say here you want to add a tag of E. No, let's not do that. Uh, let's say you just want to add a tag of a neighborhood, you know? Maybe you want to keep track of how many neighborhood locations you have. So you add that, and then you can see how many neighborhood locations you have. This one also you want to be a neighborhood location. But in this one, maybe you want it to be something else because it's, or I don't know, maybe we have a better option. Let's see, this one. This also look, why does Singapore all look like a neighborhood? This one, okay, this is an industrial location. Let's call this industrial. Um, you can be creative with your tags. Let's say you make a bigger map. Maybe you want to add Indonesia to it. Then you can add this location. Maybe you can give it the rural tag. Um, maybe you can add a location and say that this is on the curve. So you can choose whatever kind of tag you want, and then you can keep track of locations in your map. So then you know how many neighborhoods you have, how many rural locations, how many curve locations, how many highways, uh, whatever. You know, you can be creative with it. You can choose what tags you want to have. And the great thing is that if you export this as a JSON and import the JSON again into this map maker in maybe a different map, um, all the tags are still intact and saved, which is not the case here because yeah, the GeoGuessr map maker is just messed up. But here with JSONs, you can keep the tags and save it all. So that is one of the biggest advantages of this map maker. And then another advantage is that let's say you've done a bunch of locations, but then you realize that you don't really want locations in northern Singapore. So, okay, maybe I don't want this. Then I can just draw a polygon around these locations, and then I can just delete selected locations. So there you go. In the GeoGuessr map maker, you have to individually delete every single location that you don't want. So if you just want to delete a bunch, then you're screwed. Or another very beautiful thing you can do here is, let's say you want to tag all these locations in to us as to us. So what you can do is you can draw a polygon around to us. I don't actually know if these are the borders of to us, but you add a polygon and you bulk add a tag saying to us. And then you can deselect this. And when you say to us, you can see all these locations have the to us tag, which is amazing. So you can bulk add tags for locations. You can bulk delete locations. And then you can just do a bunch more things with these polygons. Like, let's say, yeah, you can like select a bunch of locations. You can, where is it? Invert them. So then it tags the locations that you didn't select. And you can and selection. You can do a bunch of stuff. I'll leave the exploration part of this to you because there's so many cool things you can do the more you get into this. Another very cool aspect of this map maker is that, let's say you are here, you can switch between coverages. So you can see that this road has been covered multiple times by Google. So this is May 2022, but in May 21 it looked like this. Jan 2019, June 2015, April 2016. You can just choose whichever coverage you want and press save. And the location will be saved with that coverage. So maybe you can even keep track of that, you know? You can say this is old coverage. And it's cool. Sometimes you can get very cool locations with old coverage, which you won't get with new coverage. Maybe there's like something interesting happening within the street view uh, that catches your attention. Maybe there's a funny drawing, graffiti, whatever. I don't know. But you can save those sort of things by looking at old coverage and save them in the map maker. This can't happen in the GeoGuessr map maker because it always, no matter where you select, will always default to the latest coverage and you cannot switch between coverages. So a bunch of advantages of using this map maker right now. And it's very easy to just export these maps and import them into GeoGuessr. So you know, really no reason not to use this map maker right now. And from what I know, in the future, there are going to be even more cool features being added to this. Maybe I shouldn't spoil these things. I don't know. But I definitely know that there are some interesting things in the works. So I would definitely recommend you to go to Map Making app if you want to make a handpicked map. It is definitely the way to go. You have so many more tools. You can save so many locations in so many ways. And then you also have the options of saving Pano IDs. So Pano IDs is a concept that is not really well known outside of map making. But basically, what happens in GeoGuessr is that when you select a location and you save it, it saves the coordinate of the location. So that's why whenever you import or export CSV files, you just have a bunch of coordinates in them. But the alternative here is to save not the coordinate of the location, but the panorama itself. So this is the 360 panorama at this spot. And then if you save the panorama instead of the coordinate, then let's say 1 year down the line, maybe Google will cover this location again. Right now, the latest coverage is from October 2018. Maybe in 2023, it'll be covered again. But you still want to stick to the 2018 coverage. Then what you can do is you can save the panorama. And the way you can do it is just by selecting October 2018. As it says up here, you can select the specific panorama. And then you can go ahead and save the location. And then it saves the panorama instead of the coordinates. This is very useful, especially in cases like Bhutan, where I showed you earlier, where often what happens is that the coverage is overwritten by unofficial coverage. That's what we call ARI in our GeoGuessr lingo. So yeah, as you can see, this is what happens sometimes is that even though there's official coverage, the unofficial coverage gets priority for some reason and it overrides the official coverage. So 1 year from now, there's a chance that maybe or it doesn't even have to be 1 year, it could be just tomorrow, that an unofficial coverage car drives on that road and it overwrites the coverage. And then if you've saved the location um, by panorama, then as you see, the default becomes the unofficial one. So the only way you can save the official coverage here is just with the Pano ID or the panorama ID, the panorama. So that's the thing with Pano ID locations. Maybe it's not that easy to understand right now. Maybe with a bit of more map making, you'll understand what I'm trying to say if you're new to this. Um, but in general, saving the panorama will save the coverage um, in whichever coverage it is, So if this is August 2012, if you save this panorama, then it will always be August 2012. So that's the thing with maps that are Pano ID'd. So all the locations are Pano ID'd in the map. Then all the locations are stuck in whichever coverage they have. Whereas maps that are not Pano ID'd can have, new coverage overwrite the existing coverage. So maybe you think that's a drawback, but in reality, you can even update those panoramas to the newest coverage. So if you have finished your map and you've chosen to Pano ID it, then what you can do is you can go to this tool, again will be linked in the description, very useful, and you can choose the file. So let's say I choose the2.json, and then it automatically Pano ID'd it. There's one error because there was no replacement. This is maybe a bit too complicated to explain, but let's take another example for now. Usually you won't get that many errors. So let's take a look at our Singapore one. So there you go. There's 0 errors and 175 out of 175 locations are now Pano ID'd. So when you save these locations and you go here, then all your locations will be, I forgot that these are now duplicated. So what I can do is I can select these tags and delete these locations, so there won't be duplicates. And now I can import this. So that's another advantage of tags, is that if you do mistakes like that, you can easily correct them. But now you can see that every location will be Pano ID'd. You can see here April 2021, it doesn't say default. So that is the default Pano. And you can see more, yeah. But maybe you decide that your map is Pano ID'd, but you want to update it to the newest coverage. So what you can do then is you can go to this website again, and you can click Remove Pano IDs, and you can go to this one, and then it's already removed all the panos. So now you can go to your map maker again, and if you import this file, then it will have no Pano IDs. So here you can see it says default. It doesn't say the Pano. So your map is now updated to the latest coverage. And now if you want to Pano ID it again, you can of course just download this, and then you go again here to add panos, the2.json, and there you go. There is your map with the updated panos. So personally, I would recommend, if you make a map, to Pano ID the map so that it doesn't get overwritten by unofficial coverage. And then you can periodically just go and, just do what I just did, remove the Pano and then add the Pano again, so all your locations are updated to the latest coverage. And then sometimes you have issues with Pano IDs, they break, Google changes some things. So if that happens, then you can just go to this tool again and upload your select fix broken Pano IDs and then upload your file, and then your broken Pano IDs will be fixed. So it's very easy to maintain Pano ID files nowadays because of this tool. So I would highly recommend you to Pano ID your maps, but it's your choice, if you're not too worried about unofficial coverage replacing your locations, then it's all right, because you can of course manually fix that as well. Another thing I would highly recommend you is to go to map making app and go to this map making manual. This is very, very useful. Creating a map, the map maker, location editor. There's a lot of tools, a lot of important things that you can find here. Another thing I forgot to mention is that you can load a GeoJSONs onto this map maker, which is a bit complicated. You don't really need it unless you're making a large scale map. But here I have a GeoJSON of Russia. Of course, it's now very laggy because of the GeoJSON. But you can see that all the oblasts and krais and yeah, basically all the subdivisions of Russia are highlighted by a separate polygon. And you can use this to tag your locations. So let's say you have a location here. Um, yeah, you can just create your map, select your locations, and then, oh my God, it's so laggy. But okay, let's say you have two locations in your map. Okay, you'll probably have like hundreds. And then you can auto tag these using this name one. You can see all the thingies, the oblast names, and now you can see Tatarstan. And okay, let's deselect these. But you see Tatarstan. Now this is tagged automatically. Um, Volgograd, this is tagged as well. And it also shows you that there are duplicates here. Maybe I click twice. So that's another thing that you can also do here is you can just search for duplicates using this map maker. So within a 10-meter radius, maybe you can see that there are duplicates here, and then you can delete them so that there won't be duplicate locations in your map, you know. So now you have 0 duplicates. So that's I think I've gone through quite a few features. There's even more, but do I really need to talk about all of them? So another feature maybe is that if you select locations with a bunch of tags, let's say you have this map and then you want to hide all the locations or like all the pins for the GeoGuessr for the Singapore part, then you can select this and or I did the other way around. You wanted to hide all the other pins, then you can just see Singapore here. But then you can also invert, and then these locations are selected. And now if you do this, then all the Singapore locations are hidden. So yeah, you can play around with this a lot. There's a lot of things you can do. You can even store the map position. So if you were like selecting locations in this area, you store this map position, and then you can go somewhere else. And now you want to go back to where you were, then it takes you right here. So lot of cool things you can do with this. Just so many useful tools. Hopefully, I've given it justice and showed you what all you can do. But yeah, handpicked maps, definitely go here and then export them and import it into the GeoGuessr map maker. That's the best way to go about it. And then yeah, also Pano ID it if you like. I would recommend it, but if you don't want to, then that's your choice. So that's it for handpicked maps. Let's get into computer-generated location maps. So let me show you. You go to map generator and yeah, that's link that in the description as well. That's where you can make these maps. So there are a lot of things you can do. Um, First of all, you can reject unofficial coverage, so it'll only generate official locations. You can choose if you want trackers or not trackers. If you want unofficial coverage, you can even do that. And then if you want to only, let's say, generate Gen 4 locations, if you don't know about camera gens, I'll leave the link in the descriptions. It's basically how recent the Google camera is. So the higher the generation, the better the camera quality, pretty much. So yeah, if you only want Gen 4, you can do that. You can select a bunch of things. You can find locations only at intersections, maybe if you want to make like an intersection guesser type map, or only at curves if you want. You can even select the angles and whatnot. Adjust heading and adjust pitch. This is by default set so that all the locations selected will be panned towards the road. But if you want them to be pointed somewhere else, then you can do this as well. But yeah, if you just leave it on default, then it'll have good panning usually. And then you can also choose how many generators. So if you add more generators, then it'll be a bit heavier on your PC internet. But yeah, you can generate more locations, I guess. And then you can also select a time frame. So if you want to only see locations in Turkey from 2017 to 2022, then you can also do that. So you can do a bunch of things, and then you can select which countries you want locations in. So this is also a very easy way to make a world map. So let's say you want US, Brazil, Russia. Russia is separated into Asian and European here. Australia, India, Canada, Mexico, Argentina. And then you can just select how many locations you want. So you can work on your location distribution maybe. Um, right now, let's just keep everything at 1K for the sake of simplicity. And then you can start generating. And then you will see, I hope I didn't select anything that's too taxing on the, oh, did I select 2018? Okay, it's it's taking too long. I was over ambitious. Let's close this. Let's just do it for something simple. Let's just do a Norway one. Why not? So you select Norway. Let's have 1,000 locations in Norway. Point them all towards the road, and no unofficial coverage. Yeah, this should be good. Or let's do only Gen 4 Norway. Why not? Let's do that. And let's see how it works. So here you can see that the pins are being generated in different spots in Norway. Um, if you want to know how it selects where to add the pin, well, it just tries different spots, but like how it distributes the pin across the country, then I have no idea. Maybe the developers can tell you, but I personally do not know. But yeah, it's pretty quick. As you can see, we're already at 6:30, 6:50. So it's not as quick as making a polygon map, but it's definitely a very quick way to make a, um, what do you call it? An AI generated map. Uh, and then, yeah, you can zoom in a bit more. You can even see the pin. If you click on the pin, it takes you to the location as well. So you can explore the location in the meantime if you really want to. Um, and then, yeah, your map is ready to go. So again, if this is done, you can copy this to clipboard and you can go to your maps, import locations from clipboard, and you have got your 1,000 location Norway map ready. And the good thing is that this map will be all facing towards the road, so you don't have to worry about everything pointing towards the north. Let's go to the map. And yeah, it's all official coverage. You also know that there won't be trackers because I did not select find trackers. So if you don't really like trackers, then you can avoid them this way as well. Now, when you're at like on an intersection or in a bend, sometimes the panning gets a bit weird. But usually it's fine. Oh, look at this. This is amazing. Wow, the snow. It's awesome. But in any case, this is how you can do your AI generated maps. Now you can be very specific with the distribution as well. Maybe you want, let's say, 15 locations in Oslo, then you can just draw a polygon. Okay, let's clear everything. So what you could do is you can draw a polygon at the bottom. Let me move my cam there. So yeah, you just select a polygon. You draw this around Oslo, or there you go. And then in that polygon, you can choose to have what? Maybe 30 locations. Then start, and then you can be, more specific with your kind of distribution for the map. So that's something that you can't do in GeoGuessr polygonal maps as well. So that's an advantage. So AI generate or computer generated maps, it's not really an AI, it's just a computer. Uh, these computer generated maps definitely allow you more freedom, allow you to make maps with hundreds or thousands of locations in a very short amount of time. And yeah, you can set your distribution Maybe if you want to make a US map, you can set the state-wise distribution as well. Or another thing what you can do is the GeoJSON I mentioned earlier, you can import that here as well. And there you go. So if you want to create a Russia map, there you have the polygons already. So you can select the polygon and then you can select in this polygon, maybe you want to have 200 locations. In this polygon, maybe you want to have 500 locations. And you can just set all that and you can start, and then it will start generating locations in those territories. But yeah, of course, when you load a GeoJSON, it gets a bit laggy and stuff, so you have to keep all that in mind. As you can see, it's starting to generate locations in those two polygons. So as I said, you can do a lot of cool things with this. Yeah, I mean, you can explore it more as well. There are different layers here. You can check the OSM, terrain, satellite as well. Right now, it's also by default set to official only. Um, and then, yeah, you can also use this to find new coverage. That's what these markers are for, Gen 4 update, Gen 2, 3 update. But if you're just wanting to make a GeoGuessr map, this is not really relevant for you. So don't worry about that too much. But yeah, this is a great way to make maps. You can let the computer do the work for you. It even pans the locations. All you have to do really is define the distribution, and the rest the computer will do for you. Um, but with handpicked maps, it's quite different. You have to select a lot of things. You think about a lot of things. You try to select specific spots. So of course, the highest amount of freedom is in handpicked maps, followed by AI-generated maps or computer-generated maps, and then polygonal maps. So I think hopefully I've provided you a good overview of map making. Now there is one step further that you can go with generated maps. So yeah, if you want to maybe make a map of, let's say, McDonald's in France, then you can, but you need a different tool for that. It's called Overpass Turbo, and yeah, honestly, it's not worth talking about it in this video because it's fairly complicated, and it's pretty advanced. You know, it's you don't really need it on a day-to-day basis. But if you do want to find out, then you can like get in touch on Discord or yeah, just ask in any Discord GeoGuessr community. Maybe someone might know. Um, but yeah, that's a bit advanced. But for most practical purposes, all of this should be useful to you, hopefully. And hopefully this video has provided some insight to you on map making, the map making tools that are available to you, and what kind of maps you can make. You are not restricted by the GeoGuessr map maker. You can do way more than that. And yeah, you should give it a shot. Map making is a lot of fun, especially handpicked maps. You get to learn a lot about the world. You get to explore the world a lot. I would definitely recommend you to try out handpicking some maps. And finally, after you've finished making your map, you've finished publishing it in GeoGuessr and you've played it a lot, maybe there's a time where you want to do some map maintenance. You want to look back and see if the locations are fine, if some of them have broken, or maybe they got overwritten by unofficial coverage. Don't worry about all that because you have a tool for that as well. That's called Map Checker. So again, here you need the JSON. So you need this script to view the JSONs. Where is that? I closed the tab. But in any case, you have this. So you go here, you open the JSON that you have, and then here you can see reject unofficial, reject Gen 1. So if you created a map where you don't want unofficial coverage, you don't want Gen 1 coverage, then this tool will check for you if there is any. So as you can see in the Singapore map, there is nothing, no problems. So we're good to go. Um, but you know, sometimes you may find problems here, and then you can fix locations from there. Another thing you can do in Map Checker is you can change the um, panning of the locations. You can import your JSON, and then you can select these two, and then it automatically pans your locations towards the road. But if you have a map where you've custom panned all the locations and you have the JSON for it, then you should untick this because then it'll overwrite your panning. But if you want it to be panned towards the road, then you can just use this and all your locations will be panned towards the road. And you can download these and then you have this with the modified panning. So yeah, map checker is also very useful. Definitely very useful for maintaining your maps, especially if they are larger. If it's like a 20 to 50 location map, then maybe doesn't matter that much. But yeah, that's about it. So creating maps, you can make polygonal maps, handpicked maps, computer generated maps. For polygonal maps, you have to use the GeoGuessr map maker. For handpicked maps, I would recommend using a map making app. And for computer generated maps, you can use this map generator. Uh, and then, yeah, for map maintenance, you can use map checker. For Pano IDing and unpano IDing your maps, you can use this website, geoemily.biz. Link that in the description as well. So you have a lot of map making tools. Make sure to use them because these will allow you to make fantastic maps. Um, and I'm looking forward to seeing more amazing maps coming from the community. I think these tools have developed very recently. When we started working on a community world, we didn't have any of these tools really. This map making app did not exist when a community world started, and that's sort of hard to imagine for me at this point because of how much this changed the game. Um, but yeah, now that you have this Pano ID tool, now that you have these advanced map generators, you have so many cool things at your disposal to make amazing maps. So I'm sure over the coming few months and whatnot, we'll see some really cool maps, and I'm looking forward to it. Um, but yeah, that's about it for this video. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. Hopefully it was enjoyable. Maybe you found something interesting, or maybe it answered some of your questions. Because I often have people DMing me asking some questions about map making. So hopefully this video answers a bunch of those. And yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day, nice week, and I will see you in the next video.